Is Shakespeare correct? Is a rose by any other name just as sweet? Or do names have power? In the movie Anora, names aren't just labels. They signify how people perceive themselves, how they want others to perceive them, and how others see them. And today we're going to take a look at Anora and Annie's evolution from a transactional existence to a place of genuineness, self recognition, and intimacy that is intricately tied to the name she adopts and the culturally bound one that she was given at birth. I don't know if that's what sticks out about this movie to most viewers, but this is mental health in the movies, and identity is a really important part of our journey in life. So I thought it would be a good way to look at this Oscar winning movie. As always, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, I'm giving it all away. So if you don't want to ruin the surprise, bookmark this video, watch Anora, and then come back and watch this video. Cool. All right, so the movie opens up in I don't even know what to call this establishment these days, but it's a strip club. I don't know if that's politically correct. I have no idea. Annie, as she calls herself, is an exotic dancer and she works in a strip club in New York. She dances on stage, does lap dances, does private dances, and also takes private appointments where she works as a prostitute. She's 23, fit, and attractive. I said, as she calls herself, because her given name is Anora. It comes from her Russian heritage. Her grandmother is the last relative who doesn't speak English, so she says she understands Russian but doesn't speak it. Annie never says this, but I think it's obvious that she wants to distance herself from her Russian background, and one of the ways she does that is by calling herself Annie. Now, it's typical for a performing artist to have stage names. You get creepers, stalkers, craze fans, and all of that, and having a fake name gives you a little bit of privacy and separates your performer self from your private self. But I don't think that's what's going on with Annie. It's also common for people to give children nicknames. So Robert becomes Rob, Robbie, Bob, or Bobby. Elizabeth becomes Lizzie, Liz, or Beth. Then, as the person gains maturity, they grow into their adult name sometimes. And then there are people who change their name because they want to be someone else. They may change the first name, last name, or both. It's a way of divorcing their family, their history, their heritage, and sometimes themselves. With Annie, I think it's a combination of these things. It is her stage name, but it's also her persona. Annie is a diminutive form of Anora, and she's acting like a small, soft, approachable version of herself while at work. She comes across as very accommodating, available, and willing to do whatever the guys want her to do in exchange for money. It's all transactional. The deal is I will pleasantly engage in whatever you want for the right price. And she's always working. Her life is never about what she wants, her pleasure, or self expression. It's all about survival and business. So it's ironic that her boss calls her over to attend to some Russian customers because they speak Russian and so does she. The boss introduces her as Anora and she says, "Call me Annie." She's speaking English and they ask for a Russian speaking escort. So again, she explains that she understands, but she doesn't speak. She's introduced to her client, Ivan, who's also known as Vanya by his close friends and family, and quickly upsells him to a private room. And from there, he asks her if she does side jobs, and she agrees to come to his house for paid sex. She does her act and has sex with him, but he wants more. So he asks Annie to stay with him and be his girlfriend for a week and have lots of sex. And she says she'll do it for, I think it was $15,000. So they have a big party for New Year's and engage in a lot of vapid conversation, do a lot of drugs. They really don't do a whole lot of anything else except lay around. There is no deep conversations, no meaningful anything. It's a really superficial existence of cursing, sex, drinking, and empty conversation. And Yvonne decides to go to Vegas. So he hires a private plane and off they go. Yvonne doesn't want to return to Russia to work for his father. He figures if he marries an American, he can get a visa and stay here. So he asks Annie to marry him, and she agrees, and boom, it's done. Now you might think that the transactional relationship is done because now they're man and wife, but if this is how you roll, this is what you do. You keep score. You barter for the best end of the deal. It's always about what's in it for me and did I get a good deal? In fact, Yvonne never sees Anora as Anora. He calls her Annie, which is a way to maintain that transactional distant relationship. So she gets to be rich, the jet setting wife, and he gets to be free of his parents' control. That's the deal. They're both exploiting each other because Annie does this too. She's participating. And Yvonne's close friends and family call him Vanya. But I think Annie only does this once or twice. And even then, it's when she wants to appear closer to him than she really is. Once they're back home, the rumors start to circulate that Yvonne is married, and this won't do. Yvonne's family are bigwigs in Russia, and they have plans for him that don't include a prostitute daughter in law. They tell him that this has got to get annulled. He argues while they're on the phone, but once they appear in person, Yvonne is out the door. He abandons Annie to fend for herself. Yvonne's handlers get there and they want to keep Annie under their control as well because they have to get both of them down to City Hall to get the marriage annulled as soon as possible. There are 3 Russians, Armenians. I think there are 2 Armenians and a Russian. And this is where it gets really strange. I didn't realize that this was supposed to be a comedy. They start doing some really buffoonish stuff here to capture Annie and search for Yvonne. Annie's fighting them off. They trash the house. She bites Igor. All the while, everyone is treating Annie like a pariah. They continuously refer to her as a prostitute. They don't treat her like Yvonne's wife and don't know the first thing about her, all except Igor. Igor addresses her as Anora to separate her from her stripper identity of Annie. He does it to highlight her dignity and potential. Annie corrects him, tells him to call her Annie. And while they're looking for Yvonne, we discover that Igor brought the red scarf with him. And he makes fun of him for that and asks him if he's going to tie her up or choke her or hurt her in some way. I can't remember exactly what he said. But he noticed that. It was cold. And, how's she going to be warm if she doesn't have a scarf? So he brought it for her and he offers it to her, but she initially refuses. But it's really cold. So she accepts it eventually, despite her pride. And they catch up with Yvonne in the strip club where he met Annie. And she's with a sex worker who doesn't like Annie at all. Annie bursts into the room and starts calling the shots. She's begging Yvonne to stay married, remember that they love each other, but he's really too drunk to respond. And he's really immature. He's 21. He likes video games. He's a spoiled rich dude who doesn't know how to be a man yet. Annie is saying things like, Vanya, you're mine now. And Vanya, we're in this together. But he's not responding. She's trying to appeal to their identity as a family and trying to insert herself into the group of people who know him as Vanya, but she was never really one of those people, so it doesn't have any effect. They finally get in front of a judge, and he tells them that Vegas has jurisdiction over the matter, so they head back to Vegas. Meanwhile, the parents show up. When Yvonne's family uses Annie's full name, again, she tells them it's Annie, not Anora. So she's sticking to the vision of herself that she wants, and that does not include being the granddaughter of a Russian immigrant. She wants to be the wealthy American wife. And it's funny because she fits right in with Yvonne's family. She is as controlling and demanding as Yvonne's mother. When Yvonne's family comes into the picture, he's not Yvonne anymore. He's Vanya, and he becomes a docile little boy who does what he's told, including abandoning Annie. You would think that he never cared at all for her. In fact, I don't think he did. She's just a fun means to an end. The family is insisting on a $10,000 settlement and an annulment, and Annie is trying to play hardball. But Yvonne isn't backing her up, so she says, nope, I'm going to get a lawyer and get half. But Mama basically says, you don't want none of this. You will end up with nothing if you try, and Annie backs down. So they take her 4-carat diamond, and she gives him back the fur coat. And Igor pipes up and says that perhaps it's a good idea if Yvonne gives Annie an apology. Mama's not having any of that and can't believe that Igor even said it. She looks at him like, what? Then they tell Igor to fly back home with her on a commercial flight. And they can stay that night at their house for one night, and then she has to pack up her stuff and go home. Now, all the drama started with Annie in her underwear. She puts on this dress and some crazy high heels. But as the hours go by, her makeup is wearing off. I mean, she's here, she's there, she's sleeping, she's, all this stuff. So this transformation isn't only happening on the inside, it's also on the outside. And once they get back to the house, Annie and Igor first have a conversation about names. And Igor wants to know what her name means. She says Americans don't think about stuff like that. It's not important. And so he looks it up and he finds that Anora means honor, light, and pomegranate fruit. And Annie dismisses this as having any importance at all by cracking on his name. Igor's not defending. He just says Igor means warrior. And he's proud of his name, and his demeanor makes her a little uncomfortable. Then the conversation turns to Igor wanting to rape her. Well, Annie accuses him of wanting to rape her, and this is how Annie sees all men. They only want her for sex, and if they can't get it willingly or by paying for it, they will take it. She's speaking her truth. She really does believe Igor wants to rape her. And Igor is speaking his truth when he says the proof of this is because he's not a rapist. And I think it sinks in. So the next scene is where Igor is at the bank getting the $10,000 for Annie. Then he's dropping Annie off at her sister's house where she lives. And she's cracking on Igor's car. Igor asks if she likes it. She says no. He says it's his grandmother's car. All this time, Igor shows up as himself. He's grounded. He's honest. He's not playing games. He's not superficial or doing what he's doing to get a reaction or to get anything at all. And Annie has never known anybody that responds like that. And she doesn't know how to respond to honesty or care. Igor pulls out the diamond and gives it to her. I think he tells her not to tell. Clearly, he thinks that she got shafted and he wants her to have something out of the deal. He takes her luggage to the door in the snow and she continues to sit in the car. Then she climbs on top of him and initiates sex. He pulls her head close so that he can kiss her and she collapses and sobs. And that's basically the movie. So since we're talking about the importance of names, I'm going to address the ending of the movie from that standpoint because the ending is controversial. Everybody's like, I don't know what it means. Oh, it means this, it means that. Now, from the beginning of the movie, Annie kept saying, call me Annie. She says it multiple times, 5, 6 times. She does not want to be Anora. She doesn't want to be associated with her Russian heritage and does not want to be from a poor, broken family. So she's concocted this fantasy version of herself where she gets to be Annie, the desirable, wealthy, pretty girl that makes good money and is in control. Ivan uses his grown-up name when he's with Annie and pretends to be grown-up, even though he's not. Even though he's of age, he has no power. He lives in his parents' house, but he can't drive their cars. And as soon as his parents show up, he shuts down and does whatever they want him to do. When they are at the New York house together, Vanya lives in the room with the Star Wars on the walls or something like that and plays video games. And they have babied him until that's his identity. He's begging to break free, and that's why he asks Annie to marry him to give him a way to escape. But ultimately, he doesn't have the guts to do it. Annie is his perfect sidekick because she's all for the fantasy life. Neither of them are living in reality. They don't like who they are and they want to be rid of it. Annie is subtly confronted with the cost of her transactional fantasy lifestyle with Igor. He keeps trying to connect with her on an equal footing and from a space of equality. The only way that they can connect is from that place because he's pretty steady and that's where he is. He knows what it's like to not have control and be under someone's thumb because he's Russian. He knows what it's like to be Russian and all the things she denies being, and he accepts her anyway. He accepts that she's a prostitute and doesn't care. He likes her. Being with Igor means that she has to confront her true identity as Anora and Annie because this is the price of authenticity. Does she cry at the end because she can now see the value of being truly seen and understood? Or is she crying because she prostituted herself one more time to try to repay his kindness, and that's the only way that she knows how? When we first see her, she's all smiles and congeniality. She's all about whatever the guys want. So are the tears a breakthrough of all the pretense and a release of all of these emotions? We're all on a journey of self-actualization, and sometimes taking a new name is a way of rebirthing ourselves. People often take new names upon initiation like a spiritual awakening. So having a new name can be an empowering thing, a blessing. Taking on a new name can also be a way to run from who you are. Like I said, it could be a way to divorce yourself from your family or your past or to combine families, as in the case of men and women hyphenating their names upon marriage. There are many traditions that believe that names hold the energy of our true essence, and that is where our unique power lies. It's like in the story Rumpelstiltskin. The maiden's father bragged about her ability to spin straw into gold, but she couldn't really do that. And to make a long story short, Rumpelstiltskin does it for her and demands her firstborn as payment when she becomes queen. All that came to pass, and it was time to pay the piper. The only way out of it was to guess the little man's name. She searches everywhere and comes upon him singing and learns his name. And when she guesses it, he flies into a rage and destroys himself because knowing someone's name gives you power over them. How does this tie into Anora? Well, she sold her body for survival, like the queen. Taking on the name of Annie is a way for her to maintain control and stay safe. She's the author of her own narrative. By marrying Yvonne, she no longer needs protection because money keeps her safe. So now she's not talking in all soothing tones and going along with everything. Every other word is a curse word and she's angry and aggressive. This shows that she's got power, but in truth, she doesn't because it's not real. When Igor tells her the meaning of her name, he's giving her her truth back by exposing her true essence. This could be her reality if she stops hiding. When she loses her status, and Yvonne, I think it's actually a blessing because she's stripped off her mask. This is her Rumpelstiltskin moment. She's not Annie or Anora, she's her human self. And Igor sees her without buying her or claiming her, and now she can see herself through his eyes. So while it may be true that speaking your name can put you in danger, like in Rumpelstiltskin, that's only true if you're hiding something. You can't find love, honor, or light until you do. You have to shine. That's what we're here to do. We're all worthy of being named, seen, and loved, and we have to come to that with vulnerability. If Honora is one of your favorite movies, I guess that her journey resonates with you, and maybe you have some struggles with identity, intimacy, and heritage as well. Let me know your thoughts about the movie in the comments, and thank you all for tuning in. See you next week, right back here on Mental Health in the Movies. Ciao.